to do from the trauma, turning it into triumph, and just working really, really hard not to be that, like Brother Walter said, that poor me.
Yes.
Because we're all going to go through something, and if you live long enough, if you haven't, you will. So, super long story short, you all, I moved to Houston, Texas, from Dallas, Texas, in 2020 when I met a ordained minister. A few years prior to that, and when I moved to Houston from Dallas, I quickly became homeless and sought shelter at a women's shelter in the Houston area called the Houston Area Women's Center. And I sought shelter initially thinking that I was only going to be there a couple of days. Now my husband, I fled our house because I thought he was going to kill me. I had braces on at the time, and that was the only thing that kept my teeth together when he hit me in the face and knocked my teeth loose. So in the face of the pandemic, the whole world was shut down at the time. In my mind, you all, when I left, I'm like, I want my marriage to work, right? So I packed one change of clothes in a backpack and went to the women's shelter. And in that space, you all, I know now it was nothing but the grace of God, and not just to over spiritualize it, but to just offer the practical things that God used to bring me through. When I went to the shelter, you all, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm at a homeless shelter, and it hit me hard for several reasons. One was, when I met and married this man, you all, I felt like I was lucky. Like, oh my gosh, filling that void. Oh my, he chose me, he's choosing me. And it hit me like that, you all, because I didn't think that I was worthy of the love from the man that I thought that I was marrying, because the first time I came home pregnant, I was 14. By the time I was 19, I had been pregnant 4 more times. So if all of my children would have lived, I would have had 5 children walking behind me by the time I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
Tried to commit suicide 2 times. I still stand before you today with a clinically diagnosed mental health challenge, which is labeled major depression disorder. So I have to be very cognizant of who I allow around me in implementing my boundaries. But I felt like, oh my God, this man loves me, because, I have all this shame and trauma. And so when I left, thinking that I was going to come back home the next day, that was one of the reasons why I'm like, I gotta make this work. Well, when I was in the shelter, one of the therapists, and it was a psychotherapist, you all, I didn't even know what a psychotherapist was. Anybody? I was like, what is a psychotherapist? What is that? But I leaned into it because at that point I didn't know what else to do. I was operating in a state of shock, trauma, shame. Like, oh my God, it's the pandemic. I'm in this homeless shelter with these women and children. I might die, all these things. So I leaned into the therapy. And the therapy helped me a lot. And it helped me in ways that I didn't even recognize that was possible for me to get healing and deliverance. And it did that because it took me back to the 5-year-old. You were 1 or 2, Brother Walter. It took me back to the 5-year-old little girl that had experienced trauma for the first time. So that was one of the most profound practical tools that God allowed me to experience to bring me from a place of shame and trauma and defeat and all the things to the woman that you all see standing before you all today. And I'll you can ask me any other questions that you want by text or when we have the panel. But I honestly want to take this time to just lean into what I've done since then and the steps that I've taken and I continue to take to just keep me moving forward, to keep me being linked up with women like Sister Glory and Dr. Sister Lolita and April, people that are like, okay, we have these obstacles, but we dare not allow them to stop us and define us. So are you all good with that?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So through the therapy, through the just pushing, I created what I call the art of resilience. Because I noticed a lot of people was like, Jamie, how did you go from the homeless shelter to 60 Minutes and BBC News, and anybody ever heard of a show called House Hunters that comes on HGTV? I was on it a couple of years ago, so you have to check it out. I watched it back and I was like, oh, that's me, oh my goodness. But people started to ask me, like, how did you do that? So the art of resilience is what I'm gonna unpack for you all tonight. And for each and every brother that is in this room, I wanna say thank you.
Yes.
Because I recognize.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I recognize that through this journey that a lot of our men are breaking us unintentionally because they're broken.
Yes, yes.
And so in addition to what the housing things that I'm gonna talk about, that the title going from homelessness to creating housing, one of the things I wanna unpack before I forget is on the other side of this housing project that I'm working on for women, Sister Glory and about 5 of us, we're creating this organization and this movement. It's called the Me2 movement. And with that will be low barrier entry housing that I will be passionately and purposely working on for the next couple of years. Because I recognize, like I said, that you, like many men are breaking us because they're broken. And I can sit around and say, oh, I'm a domestic violence survivor. And I was sexually molested by my stepfather at 5 years old. And I can, rant all my trauma, but again, I can do that or create solutions.
Right.
So stay tuned, please. And Sister Gloria will keep you all posted. I hope and I pray that you all will be open to leaning into whatever it is that God is putting in our sphere of influence to make a difference for you men too. So with that, the art of resilience, and this art of resilience, you all, is what I've taken to literally a couple of years. I'm still like, oh my goodness. 2 years ago, it's going on 2 years ago, the state of Oklahoma gave me over $4 million in grants to build housing for domestic violence survivors. So not only is that to God be the glory, but these steps I'm about to unpack for all of us and remind myself of this is what I've used to go from homelessness to partnering with the entire state of Oklahoma, pushing to partner with the entire state of Texas and beyond. So the art of becoming resilient. The first key is awareness. The second key is accountability. So when you said accountability, I said, okay, Holy Spirit, I hear you, I hear you. Accept, refuse to give up, and take action. So for me, you all, when I first started this journey in 2020, when I was doing the therapy and it took me back to my 5-year-old self and fast forward to the work that I started to do on myself, being a 40-year-old woman in a homeless shelter with a master's degree, had been to Afghanistan twice, making decent money. These are the steps that I'm like, oh my goodness, like, okay. The awareness piece at the time in 2020, the awareness piece for me was I had to start to give myself grace for being in a relationship that caused me physical and mental harm because it had been normalized when I was a little girl. So what I recognized is, Jamie, you couldn't have went to work on the unhealthy relationship because it was normalized. So once I became aware, it was no longer a blind spot. Once I became aware that this is domestic violence, that I didn't have to live like this, I became empowered to make decisions that were consistent with what I want, not with what, oh girl, I would leave, and all the things that people tend to say to survivors from a place of, like they're trying to, help us. But I started to become aware, and I was like, okay, Jamie, you don't have to do this, and you can do this instead. So it's been so empowering. The accept, y'all, I had to accept nobody was coming to save me.
Yes, yes.
Nobody's coming to save me. And I do that over and over. The creator of the entire universe, God, put everything inside of me that I needed and still need to walk this thing called life out. And I have to accept that. And this is from my trauma, moving from survivor to thriver, victim, survivor to thriver, accountability. Now, once I became aware, I accepted, no one was coming to save me, then I had to become accountable, you all. Yes. With grace, accountable for what I allowed this person to do to me. Not victim blaming myself, not victim shaming, but holding myself accountable, because for me and many of us, once we allow ourselves to be held accountable, that thing, whatever that thing is, we're less likely to do it again.
Yes.
Right? I might have another failed relationship, but it won't be a failed relationship based on the physical abuse.